What's up, guys? Do not forget the great Tszyu fights Fundora on main event March 31st. So head to in our show notes on our Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, we have a specific link for you guys to use to buy the pay-per-view. So do not forget to grab the pay-per-view. And don't forget as well, I am heading over to Vegas to create content. So if you're going to buy the show, make sure to use our link so that I can do more cool things like this, like going over to watch Timmy fight and create content and podcasts for you guys. Anyway, let's get straight into it.
Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Pack Her Up, boys. I'm trying to find out where... Oh, there, looking right there. Looking right there, baby. Let's get straight into it. Before we do, there it is. Oh, a bit of a frothy. Oh, yeah. Oh, it tastes as good as I remember. Oh, yeah. Bloke Beer. Pack Her Up, boys. Brought to you by Bloke Beer. Go into your local celebrations, all your liquor legends. Grab a case of Bloke Beer. Smooth, easy drinking lager. Goes down a real treat, and it's a beer of rugby league. So if you're listening to this, you're on your way home, just pop into your local bottler, grab a case, enjoy the rugby league, and give it a try. If you've been on the fence about giving it a try, give it a try, see if you like it, and let us know. Give us a message if you enjoyed it. Or even if you didn't, give us a message, let me know. Matty, there's no Shandor here. You may have looked at this and been like, wow, is it a little less good looking in this room? Yes, it is a lot less good looking.
Yeah, I was going to say a little less.
Yeah, just a little. He is currently, I think he's away for work, but he is going to be back again next week. And because at the moment he lives in Newcastle. I think by next week he'll be living in Sydney, which will make it obviously much easier for him to get to the show. And then, from there on out, he's good to go. Matty, how you been, bro?
I'll tell you what, this couch doesn't get used enough in this studio,
so
but
comfy,
it is ridiculously comfy. Between the couch and the big TV behind us, two really underrated and underused features of this great studio.
Probably is it the most underrated couch in the league, you reckon?
I reckon it definitely is. Like, you could fit, it's a big one. You can't obviously see on camera, but you can fit a lot of people on here, and you can just... I remember when I came in here with Hammy and Guru to watch a Cricket World Cup final. So we're in here for like 8-9 hours. Oh, just sunk back in this chair and just watched the cricket until 3 a.m.
Top 5 catches all time. Top 5.
Top 5 catches of all time?
Ooh.
Oh, couches. Sorry, I thought you said catches. I thought you were putting me on the spot.
No, couches. I was doing a play on the fact that we always joke about, he's top 5.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm a bit slow. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe it's you're too relaxed.
I'm too relaxed. I should sit up a bit.
The reason, obviously, he's there because obviously this is the setup, the new setup for when Shandor is back. What else has been going on, bro?
It's South versus Roosters Day, so it's one of the best days of the year for anyone living kind of around the eastern suburbs, South Sydney. Yeah, I used to, my mates, because I went to the school. My school was on so Allison Road is the road that separates the territory between South and Roosters, and my school was on that road. Marsland College, and so half the school went for South, half went for Roosters. It was always just mayhem. I remember the day that Reynolds scored at the end, against the Roosters, like when 2 tries in the last 5 minutes. That was a Monday night game, so everyone came to school on Tuesday, and half was stoked, half weren't. It was
Monday night games are the pits.
I love them.
I know you loved them. I hate them.
Are you talking from a player or from a fan?
From a player, definitely, but also from a fan, I don't like them.
Yeah, right.
Because then you lose out on the glory of like Thursday to Sunday of just balls to the wall.
I would rather Thursday than Monday, 100%.
Yeah.
But Thursday's my favorite. This is controversial. Thursday's my favorite day to watch footy, 100%. I don't know. It's probably just because I'm so keen for it.
I think that's the biggest ratings too, Thursday, because everyone's at home.
Everyone's at home. Everyone's watching, and it's at the end of the week, so you just feel better.
Watch footy.
I actually put that in our survey.
Look, I'm gonna sound like, let's go through some of the. It's hard to really. We did so you've already done the giveaway for the survey, correct?
Yeah. Those people have been emailed today.
A lot of the feedback, to be honest, the number one feedback, and we had over, I think it was about 2,500 people. To give you guys an indication of, so each episode we might get anywhere from, a Monday episode, we'll get about anywhere from 70 to 80,000 downloads. And then on a big episode, we'll go all the way up to like 120, 130.
Yeah, our biggest
review.
Our biggest was 160, yeah.
The preview.
The preview was 100 and I'm getting mixed up now.
No,
One was
the season preview. That was the biggest one.
160. Yeah.
160. And so we had 2,500 people do 2,100 people do the survey.
Yeah, close to 2,300.
Yeah, so it gives you an idea of, when people go like, oh, how like merch drops or whatever, and it fluctuates. It's not 2,000 people buy merch every single time, but it gives you an idea of like we have 160,000 to 80,000 every week just on the Monday show, and each week it's about 200 to 250,000, or we'll say 200 to 250,000 downloads.
Yep.
And you're looking at about 100,000 unique people.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
not including social media. So that's just the podcast.
Yeah.
So it gives you an idea of how many people consume the content, but they don't, it's not like we're selling 100,000. Jesus Christ.
Imagine.
If we were selling 50,000 shirts or whatever, which is fine. That's why, we probably had to bring in ads.
Yes.
Initially when we tried to keep it ad free, I was kind of hoping that there would create an environment where, if you had most people or at least half the people grabbing stuff, then it would be able to self-sustain. But because people, and don't get me wrong, I get it because I'm an internet baby as well. So, we're so used to consuming content for free that the only real way is really you have to put ads in the content, and we try to make the ads entertaining. Like as you guys know, like we don't very rarely we just script read. So when I speak to people, so like when we go to brands and that, we try to say, okay, what can you give our audience? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than here's some ad space, how much are you going to pay or whatever. Obviously that's a part of the negotiations, but we always try to make it so that we're giving the audience something. So for example, with menu log, you're going to order your food off a order service. So what can we do so that you were going to do that anyway? So you're actually not spending money that you wouldn't have spent otherwise, but with Bloke, we give you the free delivery, the Indian. And so you're actually getting something for what you're listening to. So that's kind of the thought process. And on top of all that, instead of doing ad reads, we always say to companies, let us come up with the idea, because we want to be able to create enjoyable content that's brought to you by such and such, rather than just rattling off a whole ad read. But the survey, 2,500 is actually a really, like compared to other, media companies or whatever, when they ask to get surveys done, 2,500 is actually a massive, massive number. So a massive thank you to everyone that did it. It's so, so helpful. When we go to brands and that, I don't think you understand. Anyway, one of the biggest feedback was love Face Your Music and Hammy.
Yep.
That was the number one feedback.
That was definitely the most obvious response that we got from the Monday.
As in, you can type in keywords and that came up the most.
The most, yeah.
Because, people would write in paragraphs or sentences of what they loved, and you type in keyword like Face to Music, and then you type in the other keywords, blah, blah. And Hammy, how much people loved Hammy, the addition of Hammy to the show, and Face to Music, how much people enjoyed that segment. So that was really cool. Other stuff, little things like there was, ironically, some people like love the length, other people like make it a little bit shorter. And so we it's funny, people have in their head, and maybe it's, we're guilty of it, that it's a 4-hour podcast every week. It actually hasn't been 4 hours for quite a while.
No, last week actually was our longest in a long time. It was 3 hours 50.
Yeah, 3 hours 50. So we're going to try to land around the like 3 to 3:30.
Yeah, I say our average would be around 3:20, 3:30.
Yeah, and so I reckon if we can clean it, like make it like really sharp and land on the 3-ish mark, like 3 to 3:10, I think that's your best area there.
Yep.
But just so for listeners to know, and people that listen to Packer Up Boys, they're the hardcore fans. But we definitely look at all of that feedback and look at ways that we can sharpen things up. And also sometimes, and if I'm being honest, sometimes I go, yep, got that feedback. But I believe this is better. I believe this is going to work better. And not all the time, because I think that the audience definitely does know what they want. But in saying that, and I'm not some kind of hero, so like I'm not perfect or whatever. But I do feel like my expertise is in podcasting. So like there might be things that I see that maybe the audience doesn't see because that's not their expertise. For example, like, I don't know, if you're a Sparky or something like that and you go to a house, I might be like, oh, I want the box put here, or I want the PowerPoint over here, and I might not be aware that, well, actually it's going to work better if you put it here because I've been to houses heaps of times and these are the reasons why you don't. And I think that sometimes you've got to make that tough call of like, do you fully, whatever the audience is saying, do you definitely do it? Or do you rely on the fact that you have a better insight maybe than most people that are listening? I mean, that's a very rare occasion. If we get something that is like constant, we definitely look at it. Like, for example, one that we did take on board and we've been trying to like work out for a while now and is still not perfect at it, but trying to spend even amount of times on each team, which we've gotten better at. But I will say, and this is where you have to like land the expertise between listening to the audience, but also understanding that unfortunately some topics and teams are just more interesting that week than other teams. Yeah. It's just a reality. It sucks, but it's just a reality.
For sure. I think what really has improved that this year is, because I used to wave at 20 minutes. But
even you would forget sometimes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But the thing is, sometimes now I wave at 10, which is good because then Denner knows, all right, we've got to kind of wrap up for this team. Because what would happen was I'd wave at 20 and we'd still be on that first team.
Yeah.
And then so nothing would really change. So, yeah, I think we're getting better at that.
Yeah, getting better at that. But we won't be perfect 20 on each side. And I do think towards the end of the year, the teams that can't make the 8, if there's things to talk about, we will talk about them.
Yes.
But at the same time, sometimes you've got to make that call of like, look, sometimes it's just the way of the world. Certain games are way more interesting than other games. But yeah, some really good feedback. And we definitely, like for example, a lot of feedback make the DMP longer. That's, we get that. It's just hard because like, and this is not a matter of, woe is me or woe is the boys or anything like that. We're not working anywhere near as hard as you guys. But sometimes you just got so many podcasts on that the creative energy after the hour mark for everyone, it just kind of falls off a little bit. So you'd just be getting an extra 20, 30 minutes of absolute shit. People, so it's, we have actually been going a bit longer recently.
Yeah, yesterday was...
Hour and 20.
Hour 20, yeah.
So we're aware of it, obviously. But when you look at, like, for example, a Thursday, a Thursday, the boys, they've got basically their show, but they do that Wednesday.
They do that Wednesday night, I think.
Wednesday night. So they do Wednesday night and they roll back in. They do the DMP, and then they do the Thursday night companion.
Yep.
So that's 2 in a day, and the companion is a good solid 2.5 hours. And so, for example, Thursday is a bit of a lighter day, and obviously being a new dad, it makes it hard. But like Friday, I'll go basically Thursday podcast, then I've got all my other work to do, all the other, I've got to watch the game, obviously, got to take all the notes. But then Friday, I've got, the Matty John show rolling straight into this, then get home and then straight into watching footy and taking notes and everything like that. And look, that's not me complaining about hard work at all. It's more just the creative energy you just get, I don't know, it's hard to explain. You just get tired and you're not as sharp when you get into those later hours. For example, that 7-hour podcast we did, 6 hours and 51 minutes or whatever, we had breaks obviously in between that. By the end of it, like my head, like I felt all spacey and weird. Like it was genuinely a bizarre feeling.
I wasn't even talking, and I was so fatigued at the end of that day.
Yeah, it rattles you. Yeah. It rattles you, and obviously that's a little bit different because that's a full working day of talking the whole time. But yeah, so we're taking it all on board, and we really do appreciate. I cannot stress enough how thankful I am that you do it. Because I promise you, it is a point of difference. When we go to companies to partner with, no one can give them the information like that we can give. Like, do you like this brand or this brand? And, like, for example, let's say we go to a company and we ask the audience, I'll just use shoe brand for a random example. We ask the audience what their favorite shoe brand was. And let's just say 70% said Nike. And we'll say 30% said Adidas. Let's say we went to Adidas and we said, hey guys, we went to our audience. They said 70% like Nike, 30% like Adidas. Then they go, okay, so clearly we want to try and win that audience across to Adidas. Let's say they do 12 months with us. We do the survey again. It comes back 50% now like Adidas, 50% now like. The amount of money brands will pay for that, obviously, as in wouldn't pay us for it, but that's what they're spending all their money on advertising for, is to convert their competitors' consumers into their consumers. And so that's why it's just so vital. So yeah, just a roundabout way of saying massive, massive thank you. And also just all the feedback was just Yeah. So what was something else that stood out for you?
Team of the week, got a lot of, it was one of the highest ranked searches on the Monday show.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was really interesting because I rushed through Team of the Week thinking that people don't want to hear it.
I had the same, yeah.
So it's actually, it shows you that sometimes you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like
sure.
you don't know. Like there's times when you're not correct. And so, could we lean into Team of the Week more? Could we explain what it is more? So people think that Team of the Week is just me selecting. But basically what happens is we walk in the morning and the first thing we do essentially, we have like little yarn, like whatever. Then the first thing we get into in the pre-show meeting, I mean, technically it is a meeting.
I guess it's a meeting.
It is.
Yeah.
We go through, everyone has written down their Team of the Week. So basically I'll read out, all right, boys, this is who I had. And then we go through each position and someone might go, oh, mate, I thought like Drinky was pretty good. And then someone might go, yeah, but they lost and there was this error or missed tackle. And then someone might go, well, what about Dylan Edwards? Like got to over 300 meters. And basically then once we've had a bit of a yarn about it, because sometimes we'll all just go, oh, you know what? Like you've convinced me. But then sometimes we're quite split.
Yep.
And so we have a vote and whatever the majority vote is, basically they get that position. And people, think that I put pressure on or anything. But a lot of the time I'll go, you know what? I'll go with your guys' selection because I don't want to be considered biased or whatever. And so that's how the Team of the Week is selected literally every single week. It's not me just selecting the side. And I've been outvoted heaps of times.
Yeah, it's 5 people equally, for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny how like different people weigh different things differently. So like, for example, and this is, I think Guru really puts emphasis on if a team wins or loses, like more so than probably anyone else. Like it's just funny how people rank things differently.
Yeah, people have different I guess different weight in what they like. Like I'm very heavy on like what was going on around the person at the time. Like were they under massive pressure? Was it a bounce back game? What would Timmy put a lot of emphasis on? He you know what? Timmy likes the underdog. I think.
Oh, he loves
the underdog, Timmy.
Like if it's out of, I'm not just using Canberra as an example, but if it's out of Pat Carrigan versus Morgan Smithies and Carrigan's numbers are way better, Timmy would be like, yeah, but Morgan Smithies was good and it's only his second game and no one really knows.
And Paddy does it every week.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's something that does weigh in quite a lot to our selections. If a player does it every, like, okay, let's say you've got Tedesco and he's got 2 try assists, 200 meters or whatever, and you've got a rookie that's got a try assist, 250 meters, the rookie will probably get selected because of the fact that like we expect that from Tedesco.
Yeah.
Which may be fair, may be unfair, but if you went down the route of like just the best performance every week, you'd probably have, 3 or 4 blokes that would put it this way, Payne Haas would never leave the side.
Yeah, for sure.
Adam Fanua-Blake would never leave the side. And so so much goes into that selection like process. But the fact that the feedback, maybe we should lean a bit heavier into it, and really even maybe vote, maybe even do like a bloke most valuable bloke vote. And so we have like a Dally M system, but our own. That could be something that we could lean into. Another one is people want me to do more like breaking plays down. Funnily enough, I think I would love to know what you guys think in the comment sections, but when you watch so much footy and it's like so obvious to you what's happening, you just go, well, it's not interesting. Like that's so obvious. But I guess for the wider audience, like it's not obvious.
Well, perfect example. So I'm not X's and O. I'm so far down when it comes to that, like compared to Denon. But I loved your analysis about the Warriors.
Yeah, I got a lot of feedback on that.
That was mad.
And I'm just like, it's so obvious to me. Like what? Like, but, and not obvious because I'm a genius at all. Fuck, please, the furthest thing. Obvious because I've literally trained it so much.
Yes, exactly.
Not because I'm. So I'm thinking like, do we get some footage up each week? You know what? Let's try it.
Okay,
let's try it. You select some footage that you found interesting.
Yep.
And we'll go through it on the potty. Or if there's something that I find interesting, like we could even go over Nathan Cleary's the dropping under play that he's been doing quite a bit. But yeah, so we're listening, guys, for sure, and we definitely understand that we can always be better. I mean, Matty, you can attest to this. I said to the boys before the season started that, like, we can't rest on our laurels and just be like, yeah, we got all these numbers and we're killing it. Like, we need to actually be better than we were last year.
100%.
Otherwise, we're kidding us. Like, that's taking the piss. And it's taking the piss out of the audience, because the audience is what put us here.
Exactly.
You know, like a lot of podcasters, like my number one bit of advice to podcasters is like, your feelings don't matter as much as you think they do. It's your audience's feelings that matter. That they are the most important, because the beautiful thing about the internet is you are purely, like, undoubtedly, there is no argument about it, you are made by the audience. So it's a beautiful thing, but it's a responsibility. And I think sometimes content creators or people that get a bit of notoriety or whatever, they lose sight of that, and they think that they created themselves. And to a degree, of course, like you worked hard or whatever, but it's different to the old school media, because it wasn't the audience that made you. It was the people that make those selections in those huge media companies. Whereas with the internet and with our podcast specifically, it was purely person by person, one day after the other, slowly saying, you know what? I enjoy this. And then they put their time into it. So you actually, people that go, oh, I don't owe anyone anything. That's not true. That's not true at all. You absolutely do owe your audience. And you have a responsibility to deliver good work for them.
Absolutely.
Like, it's, if you think any other, you're almost, you're just getting ahead of yourself, to be honest. You think you're better than you are. If you don't think you owe your audience something, you're kidding yourself.
Absolutely. Totally agree. It's funny. I don't know if you did this on purpose, but another big feedback, especially with the Packer Up, the Friday feedback, was more like peek behind the curtain, more like interesting stories. So that's actually
there you go.
What's happened right now.
Well, there you go. We're listening. Okay, I know you guys are all just sitting there going, mate, Kempy, shut the fuck up. I don't care about you and your shit business. Tell me about Panthers v. the Broncos. Panthers defeat the Broncos 34-12. Okay, let's get straight into it. Panthers, absolutely clinical, at least for 50 minutes. I thought they were super, super clinical. Overall, when I look at the game, look, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I know Panthers fans don't like hearing this. Oh, sorry. I know people that don't like the Broncos don't like hearing this, but when they complete, they can go with any team. So they go 6 from 6 to open the game, and they're actually dominating field position, all that kind of stuff. They're not dominating the game by any stretch, but they've got the slight upper hand. But the thing with Penrith is what separates Penrith from everyone else is they're like, okay, you go 6 from 6, all good. Will you go 10 from 10? Will you go 20 from 20? Will you go 35 from 35? Because we will. Or at the very least, we'll go. What did it end up being? So the first half of them was 19 from 21, and then by the end of it, a few errors crept in. But for about 55 minutes of the game, they were essentially at 90% completion rate. And so most teams in the competition, they might have one game here or there where they can go 90% completion rate. Penrith go in every big game, will guarantee you 50 to 60 minutes of a 90% completion rate. Can you do that? And the problem is most teams can't do that. And so with the Broncos, what happened was, they're going really well. Silly offload. No, I actually thought the offload wasn't too bad. Jensen drops the ball. They make an error. Then basically Panthers go down and score. Broncos grind their way back into the game. Silly error. And then a few bad calls go against the Broncos that were really tough calls in my opinion. And then they were out of the game from that period on. And so that's Penrith to a T. Like, they just turn the screws tighter and tighter and tighter until you self-implode. And then and self-implode's a dramatic word. Like, did the Broncos self-implode last night? No, they didn't. But did they hang in there long enough and do the 1% plays that an experienced side would do? For the first 50 minutes, they didn't. And then on top of that, so not only will they turn the screws, Penrith, they have some of the best, classiest players in the NRL right now. So they've got, we've looked back on, teams of yesteryear where we go, okay, they're just a really grindy side. So, like, they're just going to grind you into the ground. The scary thing about Penrith is they're going to grind you into the ground, but they also have superstars that can put points on you, at any time. And so they're looking incredible. I honestly reckon there's an argument to be made that this is the best they've looked at this time of year in Definitely in 12 months. They look
Put it
better
this
than last
way.
year.
So last year, they started the year not horribly, but for Penrith standards, really, really bad.
There were like kind of people questioning what's going on.
For sure. They lost the World Club Challenge. I know they lost that this year. They lost round one again. I know they lost that this year, but they lost a para in round. They had a bye and then they lost a para in round 4 or something. Like they weren't that good at this time of year. And then it took them to go down to Canberra, win 53-12 or something to kick into gear. So you're right. Like they were not playing this good this time last year.
They look good.
They look like I know they look like a well-oiled machine always, but in round 3 to just nailing everything.
Like, look at their,
so
like,
good.
look, I understand, like, people, and I had a discussion on the internet with a comment because I said they were super clinical last week, and he was like, how are they clinical? They didn't finish off their points. And this is just semantics with definitions. So, like, the commentator could be, the commenter could be totally right. But what I meant with clinical, and the way I see clinical, is when you can just go into your systems and just roll into a game. And although he's totally correct that they didn't have the polish at the end of the sets to score the points that they should have last week, what I mean when I say clinical, I mean when you see their game, like when you watch a Penrith game plan, it is so obvious what is happening. You know, it is so, like you could put any jersey on them and you'd be like, oh, that's a Penrith style of rugby league. Their outside backs just kick into gear. Their forwards, they don't take many hit-ups early in the set. There's a lot of drop-unders to make the middles, the opposition middle tired. And then in defence, the middlemen just scream out of the line and put it this way, nearly every set, not every set, but like most sets, the forward pack for Penrith Panthers are like rested. So every contact is great contact. They're so good at first contact, and then what they do is they hold players up and drag them back. And so they just put you in this weird position where you're never getting quick play the balls. They're totally smothering you. And so that's what I mean with clinical is like they go out there nearly every week and execute their game plan. Now, executing a game plan, if you want to say that is scoring points, then I agree with you. But I think a game plan is putting you in a position to score points. And so I believe you can still execute a game plan and not score points. And last night, they looked even more clinical, obviously, than the week before. And it was really only their last 20 minutes that let them down from it being an absolute drubbing of like 50 to friggin' 6 or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to what you said at the start, the first 20, just looking at the screen, Broncos up 2-0 the whole time. I'm thinking, wow, like Broncos are $4. I'm thinking, maybe that was pretty good value. Maybe the Broncos are playing good, but then you're right. They just kind of wait for their time. This is gonna sound so obvious, but with that game plan that they play and how disciplined they are, they're obviously not going to lose a lot of games this year. And I think the only time they've lost a finals game since the 2020 grand final was a qualifier final in 2021 against South. It's going to take a Brisbane or a Warriors in the finals
to complete it like 90%.
Yeah, to play their absolute best and be disciplined enough to even have a sniff against this team. Yeah. This team is absolutely ridiculous.
To give you an example of this kind of game plan, okay, so this is, if you watched last night's game and how dominant they were, I'd assume you're probably sitting there going, man, their forwards must have absolutely pumped them in the meters. So this is Panthers forwards meterage. Moses Leota, 121 meters. Lindsay Smith, 108. Liam Martin, 107. Isaiah Yeo, 148. So, like, not too crazy. No. Broncos, we got dominated. So, like, this wasn't a close game. Broncos, 128 meters. So, basically, Jensen had more meters than Leota. Brendan Piakora, 124 meters. He had more meters than Liam Martin. What the hell's going on there? Jordan Ricky, 100 metres, which is about the same as what those boys had. And Carrigan, more metres, he had 167. So essentially the forward pack, and then Kobe Hetherington come up, Fletcher Baker, 110 metres. So the forwards of the Broncos had more metres than the Penrith Panthers. So if you ever wanted insight into their game plan, that should tell you just how much they rest their forwards for defence. Now you go to the backs though. Reece Walsh obviously off. Arthur's 123 metres. He made a break, so that would add a lot into it. But Katoni Staggs 124, Selwyn Copper 167, Dean Mariner 118. Then you go over to the Panthers. So basically, the most meters in the back line was Selbourne Cobbo, and remember, he made a half the field break.
Yeah.
So if you take 40, 50 meters off that, you're looking at anyway, so 167 was the most meters for the backs for the Broncos. This is the backs meterage for Panthers. 309 meters, 103 post contact meters for Edwards, 120 for Taruva, 154 for Tungle, 70 for May. He was off for 10 minutes. 263 for To'o. So it just shows you that
I think Toto's post contact was 111.
104.
104, sorry.
104. So Dylan Edwards and To'o's post contact meters were 103 and 104, which is close to most of the Broncos outside backs' actual meters.
Yeah.
And so that game plan, and so basically the game plan is this, and it's going to be hard for me to like explain this eloquently, but so basically when we're coming out of trouble, our outside backs are essentially front rowers and forwards. And so all of our forwards essentially just run lines and rest so that when the ball does get kicked with Cleary's good kicking game, that's when our forwards kick into gear, line speed, really good wrestle. But not only that, when they get into good ball, the Panthers, they do a lot of drop under plays. And so what that's doing, it's just fatiguing the opposition's forwards even more. And so not only do the opposition forwards take more runs, don't have outside backs like the Panthers do. So like the Brisbane Broncos, their forwards are doing more work in attack and more work in defense because they don't have backs that are running for 250, 300 meters, every single game. And so then you add on to the fact that Cleary is also dropping under constantly. He's constantly dropping under. What does that do? It makes it so that you have to get up and stay up as a defender. And if you have to get up and stay up, guess what? The retreat back is longer and quicker. So put it this way, if you don't drop players under and you just keep hitting short, the players that are on the other side of the field, they get up maybe 3 or 4 meters, go back 3 or 4 meters. Whereas if you're constantly got a fear of having to worry about Cleary dropping players under, you have to get up more meters and you have to stay up until the tackle is dead, then get back. And so you've got less time to get back and a longer distance to get back. And so what was really beautiful about what they did last night, Cleary, is that he almost extended that by going, I'm going to go back to that, not go back to it, but I'm going to do the normal drop-off. But I'm going to start dummying the drop-off and just hit out on the edges because they're too worried. If I put it this way, a lot of halves, not usually, but at times don't do that double drop-off play anymore because guess what? That's a free shot. If you're a edge back rower, you see a half drifting across the field like that, you are like, it's, oh my God, Christmas. You should straighten in the ribs. But because Cleary does tend to drop the big boys off, you can't afford to shoot out of line and jam him. And because they've created an environment where you're like, oh shit, I better stay back. I mean, look what happened with Ezra. So he dummied and Ezra went for the guy under because he was so worried about a big bopper or a guy that's good at breaking tackles, him not getting his body in front, that created space for the outside. And obviously Jesse Arthurs didn't jam in enough. And so it was just a brilliant, I don't think people really appreciate, maybe they do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cleary is appreciated. I mean, the fanfare around him is massive. But his footy IQ and confidence in a game plan is honestly getting into immortal areas. Like his ability to identify, okay, they've got a back row out on the edge. And people might sit there and go, are you serious? That's the most obvious thing in the world. I'll take you back to, remember the famous blow up by Joey in Origin when Thurston's shoulder was hanging off.
Yep.
And no one went at him. So that's how much it's not as easy as it looks that just to get to a player that has a shoulder hanging off. In even Origin, they couldn't do it. And ironically, it's Joey who used to be so good at that. And that's what we're seeing with Cleary is identifying and not wasting opportunities like that. Not looking across and realising this is 2 games in a row now where Cleary has just peppered the side. Then on top of that, so what do Brisbane do? Smartly, they swap sides. They put Katoni on the other sides, hoping that would just slow things down a little bit. It did actually slow things down a little bit. So what did Cleary do? Just went the other side, where the back row was. Like, it's incredible football from Cleary. We're watching one of the greatest of all time. We really are, and I know people don't like to hear that, but it's just facts, man.
Oh, 100%.
It's just facts.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yes, for sure, Origin is an arena that he has to dominate to get put in that category of your Joeys and that. But if that's the only question you have of a 25-year-old, like seriously, like what do we like? If the only question we have with Cleary is we need him to have a Joey moment, we're looking at greatness.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Now, if he gets through his whole career and he doesn't dominate Origin once, as in like do have that moment, fair enough. If you want to say, no, when it got to the tippity top, Joey's out there by himself or, whoever you want to put there, Smithy. But at this stage, a 25, 26-year-old, that's the only question he has. We are witnessing greatness. Just enjoy it. I know, look, this is coming from a Broncos guy. This fucking broke me heart.
Literally.
It broke me heart twice, pumped us last night. And even I'm sitting there going, you just got to sit back and respect it. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Another guy I want to speak about is Dylan Edwards at the back there. Him and To'o.
Crazy.
I'm done with To'o. He is one of the greatest wingers of all time.
I got a question.
I'm done.
So,
as in, I'm done being scared to say it.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely is.
He's one of the greatest wingers of all time.
For sure. He's so unmatched, right? Like no one makes the meters he does. No one does the post contact meters he does. I read the thing the other day that like he's kind of ruined it for other wingers because he's just on his own level. Now, when he came through, and no one's really ever done that, not to this extent.
Not for this long of a period.
Not for this long, yeah. Do you reckon because their game plan is centered of him taking that carry, do you reckon they identified that early and kind of built that because he's so good at it? Or do you reckon they just said, make as many meters as you can?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a tough question. I don't know. I think this game plan is so specifically built that it was more probably along the lines of, if you want to be at this club, this is what you're required to do. And it just so happened this is what To'o was incredible at. But I'm done being scared of it. I'm gonna let myself free. Internet's gonna crucify me. I get it. There's gonna be people in the comment section saying, Wendell, Sailor, and that. I'm not saying he's the greatest winger of all time, but I am firmly in the camp of I'm already convinced To'o is one of the greatest wingers of all time. I said it. I'm letting myself free. I'm going to be a free rugby league spirit. I'm just flying through the internet right now. The comment sections, I'm flying through freely, and it's just all sliding off me. All the fuck you, Kempy, what the fuck do you know, shit take. It's all just, you know what? Because I'm just basking in To'o's glory.
Yeah.
I'm basking in.
I don't know how you can argue it because I remember when he first debuted for Origin, everyone, myself included, were like, yeah, but he's too small. He's going to get out jumped. Never a problem.
Yeah. That is one weird thing. It's like, how come he doesn't get targeted
I don't know.
And is it because he's just good?
Yeah, it must be.
He must be.
Because there's no way that no one's identified. Like, it's the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just... And
he's amazing.
He is actually... think about how well-rounded he is. When have we seen a winger when I think of greatest winger of all time, I think Wendell Sailor. Right. I think Wendell Sailor, obviously Brett Morris, probably the most consistent winger over a long period of time. But Wendell was the first winger that I saw that had it all. Crazy, can break a game open, but also the tough carries, speed, everything. He had everything. And you look at To'o, and he also has everything. He has everything. He's an incredible finisher. I mean, the try he scored last night, he ran through. So the Broncos had the second best defense last year, arguably the best when you look at certain stats. He ran through 4 of those defenders. One of them was a front rower, and he scored the try.
Ridiculous.
So a great finisher, very rarely makes defensive errors, great jams in at the right times, never makes an error. When was the last time you saw To'o drop the ball coming out of his own end?
I honestly can't remember.
As I said, I'm metaphorically getting naked in the rugby league community and presenting myself as a To'o fanboy. I did it. I'm free. I'm not going to let the slander hurt me.
How do you feel?
I feel free.
You feel free?
I feel free. I can feel the Shampuso's hair just flowing past me. He's saying, welcome, Kempy. The Samoan sun on my face. I can feel it all. It feels good. It feels good. Just get on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Get on the bandwagon.
I agree. But seriously, I'm in the same boat. I think of Brett Morris. I think of even, it's funny, even guys like Semi Radradra, who was only there for a year or so. I put him up there. And if I'm willing to put him up there, I'm definitely willing to put To'o up there.
I'd argue, would Semi Radradra be as consistent as To'o's been for friggin' 5 years now?
I mean, we don't know, but like no one's been this consistent before. Like it's ridiculous.
He's been New South Wales best. Like at least one of the, put it this way, in every Origin series he's been in your top 5 players, and that's being conservative. You could go top 3 if you wanted to.
Well, put it this way, he's my second pick this year behind Cleary
for
the Blues.
For the Blues,
like the most. Oh, sorry, probably Cam Murray. There's a few, but like that was probably the wrong comment. But he's my okay. So here's my locks in your team: Cleary, Murray. But even with Murray, like. Locked into the team, but don't know where we're going to play.
Yeah, okay. So position is in like guaranteed spots.
Yeah.
Cleary, To'o.
Yeah.
And like
maybe Liam Martin on the edge.
I'd have To'o locked in before Martin.
For sure, I agree.
And even like your Trells and your Tommy Turbos, it's like, where will they play? Hopefully, they've been injured the last few years, and so that just shows you. Anyway, incredible. Tungo. Amazing. Spoke about him last week, but I think we're just getting started too. That's a scary thing. 21.
He can play Origin.
Yep. I actually thought even though Bradman Best came in and killed it, and he's probably got the jump at the moment, I personally would have initially selected Tungo over Bradman Best. Matter of fact, you can probably go back and watch some of the potties back at the time. Now, to be fair to Bradman, he went and killed it, so that speaks for itself. But you know what? If you're looking for a 14... If you're looking for a 14 that's Origin made...
Jeez, that's not a bad shout, yeah.
We know he can play back row. We know he can play wing or centre. Mate, probably chuck him at the back, seriously, at fullback. I'm assuming his his passing would be good enough to be in dummy half if he needed to be. But let's say it's not. That's one position it's not. You could always put him at 13 for 20 minutes. Like, I reckon, just depending which way you want to go. Do you want to go 2 hookers? Do you want to go Jackie White, and if he plays well? But if your centres are stacked, I think
it's worth thinking about. Definitely.
I think he does fit the mould of an impact player off the bench just through the middle if he has to be. So, yeah, really excited times. Dylan Edwards. Fuck. Mate, is his journey one of the most incredible journeys in rugby league? Like, mate, his first few games in first grade were some of the biggest Barry Crockers you've ever seen in your life.
I know.
Now, he's one of the most consistent players in the NRL, and that Penrith juggernaut doesn't juggernaut along without him. Unbelievable.
Remember when I think you made an error playing for Australia and everyone was just like, what? Because we just weren't used to it.
I mean, even last night he made an error and we're like,
yeah.
What the hell? So he was outstanding. On to the Broncos side. We'll get to the tackle. Look, I think penalty is sufficient. I understand people that go, it was just a head clash. But when you jam in like that, in today's game, if we're talking 10 years ago, head clash, it's nothing. But in today's game, when you jam in like that, I don't like the word duty of care because players actually don't have a duty of care. The ref, I'm pretty sure, has a duty of care. Players have a responsibility to work within the rules of the game. And I think the rules of the game are you can't be reckless or careless when in those situations. And so if he had bent his back and Reece was falling or whatever, but he kind of left the ground. He didn't bend his back. He just didn't take enough precaution to not hit him high. Taylor May definitely didn't do it on purpose. So let's just rub that out. But he just didn't take enough precaution for it not to happen. And also, when you watch replay, his feet do leave just as he's hitting, his tippy toe is on the ground. So, and then he goes into the air. I thought penalty was sufficient. I do think that I'm a bit surprised that in today's environment that people didn't think that was a penalty. I think a penalty is sufficient. I was surprised that the NRL didn't, because remember a couple of years ago, Finucane got a couple of weeks for something similar.
He got 2 weeks for that. And I had a look at Finucane's today. He didn't leave the ground at all.
No.
Taylor May's, if you think one was worse than the other, Taylor May's was 100% worse. So, I mean, that Finucane suspension I thought was wrong.
And 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah.
The Finucane one I thought was silly. Accidents happen in these games. I thought a penalty was sufficient. So anything over that, I was a bit surprised he didn't get charged, as in the NRL didn't look at it further. Not because I think he should miss games, but just because they're trying to crack down on that kind of stuff. And we always talk about the NRL does react a bit harder when it looks bad. And when you see Reece Walsh with his face all Man, look what they did to my boy.
Yeah, I mean, example of that, if Kickout broke his jaw last week, Nicker would be out for 8 weeks. Like,
Well,
so that's why I'm pleasantly surprised he didn't get charged. Like, I'm happy he didn't get charged.
Look, accidents happen. Could have he taken different steps to reduce the chances of happening? For sure. That's why a penalty is sufficient. But outside of that, I'm okay with it. I definitely think a penalty was worth it. But yeah, big blow for Reece. He'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks now.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not.
Payne Haas also out 4 to 6 weeks. Adam Reynolds also out for 3 to 5 weeks or whatever. Look, with the Broncos, I know you want to finish in the top 4, so we can't discredit that. But if they can just stay in touch with the 8 for the next 4 weeks, then I'm not too concerned, to be honest.
Funny, my first thought was, because deep down, Broncos are my tip to win the comp, and my first thing was, if they had lose a couple games because all these players are out, I think their price on Sportsbet might go up a bit, which would be nice.
Get on them. Yeah, in regards to the performance, I thought Kobe Hetherington was much better this week. Really, really good. Loved it. I love seeing bounce backs like that. It shows you that you've got a bloke that isn't going to make excuses of very easy for him to go, I've been really good for the last couple of years. I don't have anything to atone for. Atone's the wrong word. But last week he did have a couple errors. He was fantastic. Paddy Carrigan, oh my God. In a losing team. So in a forward pack that was dominated, often when you see games like this and the forward pack gets dominated, you look at the forwards stats and you go, oh, geez, none of them ran over 100. This is Paddy Carrigan's stats in a game that, so first of all, he played 80 in the middle. 80 in the middle. The game was gone. So the game was, by halftime, game is gone. But this is why he's a future captain of this state and a future captain of the Broncos. 80 minutes, 16 runs, 167 metres. So he was averaging more than 10 metres a run against a forward pack that was dominating him. 60 post contact, so fair post contact. 3 offloads, 43 tackles, 0 misses. No errors.
He's actually ridiculous.
That is insane in a losing side. Fair enough, those stats, when you've got all the momentum and you're winning the battle. In a side that's getting dominated, it's incredible. Selwyn Cobby had a few errors. He had a few errors, but still some great moments. I thought the battle between Katoni Staggs and May was so enjoyable to watch.
That was sick.
So good. I like Katoni Staggs. Dean Mariner's ability to finish, so good. So good. Outside of that, look, I think they'll be disappointed with the fact that when things didn't go their way, they needed to just get through their sets, no errors, and just hang in the game. And unfortunately, they didn't do that. I thought Fletcher Baker, he tried his backside off. He did get put out of position on the edge there for a little bit. Unfortunately, he just had some real crucial errors. Got fended by Cleary. Cleary makes a line break. Got bumped by To'o. And unfortunately, in NRL, you just cannot afford to have that happen, especially when you're trying to crack a squad. So hopefully, and that's just really concentration. He's a front rower. He can make those tackles. That's just switching off for just a second. So hopefully that's something that he works on. But outside of that, I like the fact they showed fight. I thought that Ezra Mam, he's obviously had a relatively quiet start to the season, and understandably so with everything that's going on. I thought towards the end of the game, I really liked that he just said stuff it, and he just tried to get involved and create something. And that's when Ezra plays his best footy, when he just says, I'm just going to get involved and try and create something. And he did have a hand in a couple of good moments for, funnily enough, the grubber through, regather. Normally, it's Reece Walsh on his inside, on his right side. This time, I think it was Jock Madden, and obviously he's not that quick, so he gets mowed down. But Reece Walsh takes that and scores. So, I'm not too concerned, to be honest. Penrith were outstanding. Broncos did really well to wrangle back momentum, especially in that last 20 minutes, and essentially win the last 20 minutes. So definitely disappointing. There's no denying that. There's not just because you're missing 3 of your players, they were also missing Fisher Harris. Doesn't mean that there aren't certain things that we could fix up. I think a lot of people try to fall back. Oh yeah, we're missing these 3 players. But it's if you watch the game, it wasn't those 3 things. What they bring to the table wasn't actually why we lost. It was silly errors in certain parts of the game. And also, I do think that the ref, there were some really poor decisions. The double movement was insane. How
Yeah.
Am I watching the same game?
Well,
It's been a double movement for 1,000 years.
yeah, and the thing I don't get is South are actually the benefits of a double movement call in round 1. I thought that was a double movement, and they awarded that. So I don't know if they're being less strict this year because that's 2 now.
And that's the thing.
And last night was way more obvious.
It didn't affect the result, but that's where and so I'm not sitting here going, the refs why the Broncos lost at all. What I'm saying is that's going to happen in any game where you're going to get calls go against you, and you've got to find a way to fight through it. And I felt like the Broncos just struggled a little bit in that period to go, okay, things aren't going our way. There's some 50-50 calls. I mean, I wasn't really 50-50, but other calls that were 50-50 that happened. Like the Luai Tony Staggs one, I thought that was a rough call. Cleary head-highing, Cobbo in the in-goal, rough call. But again, that's going to happen. You've got to find a way to fight through that because there were calls in the second half that you could argue were tough on the Panthers. And so you've just got to stay in the game long enough for when it does swing and you do start to get those calls, you're there in the game to get it done.
Best example was, and this is probably the biggest learning curve out of the Warriors last season, is when that forward pass happened in the prelim, they just lost their heads for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the game, the game's
and so
gone.
you can sit there and you can focus on that bad call for sure. But at the end of the day, you've got to find a way. Everyone's going to cop bad calls at some stage through the year. You just got to find a way to hang in there. I'm not too disappointed. I'm disappointed, but not too much. Seriously, I thought, look, if they had gone out there and not fought back in that last 20, I would have been much more disappointed. But the fact that they fought back into it and were still trying things, ironically enough, it's like when they started to really open up and just say stuff it, it's when they started to get a bit of, some things happen for them. So not too worried. If anything, I'm more worried about all the bloody injuries that we've got.
Yeah, definitely.
But I always knew there was going to be a bit of a slow start for the Broncos. It's going to take time for us to find those guys. We lost Palacia, Catewell, Herbie Farnworth, and Flegler. We lost more players than Penrith lost.
Yeah.
They lost a centre, and they got arguably 2 of the form centres of the competition right now.
It's so crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's going to take time. It's going to take time.
Absolutely.
I was disappointed, but still proud of the boys, that's for sure. Don't forget, Grilled have a brand new store in Top Ride, so make sure to get there. Also, Panthers fan, you win your first, not your first, but you can go and get a free 2-for-1 voucher. If you sign up with Relish, you put in your details, and you can go in on Monday and get your second burger for free. Check in the show notes for more details. All you got to do, it takes 2 seconds. You sign up, you pick your team. Anytime they win, you get a 2-for-1 voucher. You go in Monday and you use it. And I tell you what, those grilled burgers, ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not to forget, menu log. This weekend, guys, use code COATES, COATES, for $7 off Indian food this week. And also, our LDV T60 Power Player of the Week is Ruben Cotter for his powerful performance against the Knights. He made 53 tackles without a miss. The LTV T60 has 160 kilowatts of grunt, which makes it one of the most powerful utes in its class. Check the show notes for details. Hey, support our partners because they're supporting us, guys. They help us grow, so make sure to support them. Now, the Olympic Games. The Queensland government this week announced that it will axe plans to rebuild the Gabba for 2032 Olympic Games. Under its initial plan, it would have cost $2.7 billion to do so. There was a suggestion to build an entirely new stadium in Victoria Park for $3.7 billion, but that was rejected by the government. Suncorp Stadium is now expected to play the host of the opening and closing ceremonies, while Queensland Sports and Athletics Centre, QSAC, is set to host the Athletics. Used to be known as QE2, I think. Suncorp and Gabba will now reportedly get $500 million each, upgrades, and $1.6 billion for QSAC. Okay, for QE2. Okay, with that laid out, I just think that does Suncorp need an upgrade?
I don't think so.
And so you're like, I tell you what does need an upgrade, the Gabba.
I think the Gabba, if you put the Gabba in New South Wales, it wouldn't even be in the top 3 stadiums.
Yeah,
it's not good.
But at the same time, it's a famous stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it hosts I feel like, the cricket, there's so many games that can get hosted there that Suncorp can't host.
Yeah.
And also, isn't it the home ground for
Brisbane Lions?
Lions?
Yeah.
So you'd think, wouldn't you upgrade the Gabba? Because so they're still spending $2.6 billion, which is essentially the same as what they would have spent for the Gabba upgrade, but they're just spreading it out across.
Apparently, one of the reasons is there's not enough space there to make it into a tier 1 stadium, which I can't get my head around. It's a bit of a
I mean, it's a shit
mess.
fight.
Yeah.
It's an absolute shit fight. Like, the idea of building a new stadium could be the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, when you've already got, like, what? So then you've just got the Gabba just sitting there going, just rotting.
You just knock it down.
Like, what? And also it would cost an extra, 8.8 billion, like, so 0.8 billion or so. What an absolute shit fight.
Yeah.
Isn't this Olympic stuff getting weird? Because, like, surely, I don't know, like, all this stuff's really hard because we don't have all the information, but surely it's one of those things where you would spread it out over a country rather than a small city. Because then you've got to build all this infrastructure that's never going to get used.
I mean, geez, there's photos of like stadiums at, I think it's definitely Athens, and I think it might be Rio, where they're just abandoned.
Yeah.
Like, they've spent all this money and it's just gone.
So, like, wouldn't you as a country be bidding for it? And I understand there's, like, states and they want different things and blah, blah, but surely as a country you could spread the cost out and the country gets the benefit, and then the states get the
true.
kick on from
Treat
that.
it like a World Cup.
Yeah.
Where it's
spread out.
Thought of that,
You've got
actually.
all of these different stadiums, and so everyone bears a little bit of the burden, but it'd probably end up being, I'd assume, cheaper because you're not trying to cram so many people into one spot. Therefore, if you just planned it a little bit better, you've got different things at different. I don't.
That's an interesting take that I've never thought of. But
Because the infrastructure's there, it's just across the country.
yeah, absolutely.
But in one place, it's not there. So I don't get why they don't just go, across the country. I don't. And then also, if you do that, the whole country's behind it,
Yeah.
rather than just it's Queensland.
Yeah,
so who cares?
true.
Anyway, like there's this, you know what? The thing that sucks about all this kind of stuff is there's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Like, funnily enough, I think it's the KGB, like the Russian, FBI essentially, or CIA or whatever you want to be. I think they're actually the first people that created the idea of like propaganda and misinformation. And basically, it's like this tactic of you just spread so much misinformation out there that people would just be disconnect from what's happening. Because they go, I don't know what's true and what's not true. And so, like, with politics these days, it's just like, I got no idea what's true and what's not true. Like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know what's real and what's not real. And no one, and there's no powers to check it.
Yeah.
Because, like, who do you put in that position to check the power? Because then their biases and the side that they want gets things in. So with all this kind of stuff, it's all just political maneuvering to make the other party look poor or good. And you're just like, I don't know. Can we, for once, just talk? Can we talk about specifically without when the reason for the conversation isn't to make other parties look bad. It's purely, how does this serve the state of Queensland? Can we have that conversation?
Yeah.
But we're never going to have that conversation.
No, of course not.
It's all just about making other people look like your opposition looking bad, instead of going, okay, what is going to make the most money for the people that you're supposed to be serving? Yeah, so it's just really hard to see like what is right, what's the correct answer, who's, what biases are being, what certain agendas are being pushed. It's friggin' tough. It's tough. But there's one thing we can all agree on. This has been a shit fight.
Oh, from the start.
Like a genuine shit fight. Don't forget, Musashi, use code BLOKE35 for 35% off Musashi products. They got protein bars, protein powders, pre-workouts, amino acids, creatine, glutamine, you name it. They've got it. And the thing with like protein powders and like even protein bars, really good for weight loss. So even if you're not a big gym man or girl or woman, really good for meal replacement. Protein fills you up for longer, all that kind of good stuff. Now, Timmy Tszyu. No Packer up next week, guys. I will be flying to Vegas for the Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora fight. First face-off this morning. The size difference is actually insane. Don't forget, Sunday, March 31, get the pay-per-view. You can watch it on KO, and you don't even need a KO subscription. Alrighty, let's get into some predictions for the games. We got Warriors. What a Friday night of footy.
Oh, so pumped.
Jeez Louise. Warriors versus Canberra. Who you got?
I got Warriors. You never know, but I just because the Warriors are 9-2, they got to win. I think Warriors.
I'm Yeah, I think the Warriors. Even though I think this is going to be a cracking match. Could even be match of the round. I think it's going to be a big one. Roosters, Rabbitohs.
Can't wait. I'll be out there tonight. Definitely going Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I go Rabbits. Doggies, Titans.
Yeah, I'll probably go Dogs just because they're at home.
I'm just going to Titans, being a Gold Coast boy.
Yeah,
I just want them to win. Dragons, Cowboys.
Cowboys win well.
Yeah, Cowboys. Sharkies, Tigers. Or Tigers, Sharkies. I'm going Sharkies.
Yeah, I'll go Sharks as well.
Para, Seagulls. I'm going Para.
I'm going Manly.
Okay. Newey Knights, Melbourne Storm.
I'm so undecided on this.
I'm going Storm.
At the moment, I'm going Knights.
I'm going Storm. I got a few multis on this week.
Oh, yeah?
Just a few multis. A few cheeky multis. Fuck it. I won't get them up. Actually, you know what? Now people listening will be like, I want to know what the multis are. 2 secs, guys. 2 secs. All right, tonight I'm going South Sydney to win. Jack Whiten and Cam Murray anytime try scorer.
Ooh.
Juicy. Then Para to win head-to-head. Dylan Brown, Tom Trbojevic anytime try scorer. So these are separate multis.
Yep.
And then my last multi is Storm to win, Trent Leoro, and Storm 13 plus.
Trent Leoro.
Yep. Anytime. I just reckon they get a bit loose around the ruck, and I think he might be on for a big one. So that last one's paying $26.75.
I was going to say, there's got to be value in that last one.
But the first one, head-to-head Rabbitohs plus Whiten and Cam Murray anytime.
Yep.
$36 it's paying. Juicy.
That's really good.
Yeah. Jackie Whiten's a centre.
I'm sure Jackie Whiten's going to score tonight.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Wow. Okay. We just jinxed him.
Yeah, I know, right?
Make sure to grab a case of Bloke beer from your local. Beautiful, easy drinking beer. Give her a try if you're on the fence. And as usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.